Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. In Orlando, Florida, suspect Omar Mateen went into a gay nightclub and killed 49 people, injuring over 50 people. The media has labeled that tragedy as the worst mass shooting in U.S. history. So, because it's been labeled as the worst mass shooting in U.S. history, you have a debate going on social media. Many African Americans are raising the question whether or not this was, in fact, the worst mass shooting in U.S. history. They are raising the question about other massacres that were far worse. And, they're raising those issues. So instead of talking about whether or not there should be tougher gun control laws, instead of talking about the issue of terrorism or how to deal with problems like this, instead of mourning the loss of all these innocent lives, instead of praying for the families of the victims, Black people on social media are debating whether or not this was the worst mass shooting in U.S. history. They are citing the examples of Tulsa, Oklahoma, Rosewood, East St. Louis, and the Arkansas massacre. They've also cited the example of Wounded Knee, where many Native Americans were killed. In all those events, you had race riots, all of them except for Wounded Knee. You had mobs of white people going on a rampage, killing hundreds of Black people. Many of these people were motivated because of some accusations that some Black man had either sexually assaulted or raped a white woman, just based on mere unsubstantiated accusations. So in a lot of these situations, these mobs went around hunting Black people, killing Black people, injuring Black people. And not only that, they destroyed Black towns. They burned many homes down. They destroyed businesses. They wiped out whole communities. Those horrific events cannot be forgotten. They cannot be forgiven. And they do deserve far more attention in our history books. They do deserve more attention in the media. They need to be told. Those stories must be told. And we must be the ones to tell those stories. We can't sit around waiting for the white man to tell our history. We need to tell our own history. Those tragedies obviously were far worse than what happened in Orlando, Florida. They were far worse in terms of the number of people that died. They were far worse in terms of the scale, in terms of the destruction of property. They were far worse in terms of the actual lawlessness. So yes, those events were worse in terms of just being massacres. But the issue really is not whether or not there were worse massacres besides what happened in Orlando, Florida. Because there were obviously worse massacres besides that. The issue is whether or not the incident in Florida was the worst mass shooting in U.S. history. That's the issue. And all the events that I cited before, Tulsa, Rosewood, East St. Louis, the massacre in Arkansas, and even Wounded Knee, those are not technically mass shootings. There's an article in NPR that I will post a link to in the description box so that you can read it for yourself. In that article, they define the term mass shootings, the term as it is understood when it's used in the media. And there's another article that I will post in the description box that lists all the worst mass shootings in U.S. history. And without a doubt, the situation in Orlando is the worst mass shooting. A mass shooting is a situation where gunmen open fires on a public space, like a nightclub, a restaurant, a movie theater, a place of worship, places like that, public places. Mass shootings do not involve military or quasi-military action. Mass shootings do not involve other crimes such as robbery or arson. Also, in these mass shootings, there's usually a single gunman or there may be two gunmen. In most of the situations that are defined as mass shootings, there's usually a lone gunman going on a rampage, killing innocent people. In the situations that I cited before, they didn't involve a single gunman or even two gunmen. They involved mobs of white people. Mobs of white people who were essentially participating in race riots against black people. So that's one distinction. Also, another distinction is those events involved more than just the shooting. They involved other crimes like arson. As I said before, those mobs burned down countless homes and businesses. They destroyed whole towns. Also, these weren't just shootings. Black people were killed in all kinds of ways. They were lynched, they were burned, they were beaten to death. And in the situation of Wounded Knee, from what I understand, that involved military action. So that obviously would not fit the definition of mass shootings as we understand it. So those events were not mass shootings. And of the events that were actually mass shootings, the Orlando shooting is the worst in U.S. history. The final point that I want to make is this. I understand that our story is important. Our history is important. We need to tell our story like all other people do. The world needs to remember our pain and our suffering. Without a doubt, just like people remember the Holocaust, just like they remember 9/11, Pearl Harbor, and other horrific tragedies. They need to remember Rosewood. They need to remember Tulsa, East St. Louis, and other tragedies, other race riots, other acts of oppression and brutality that were committed against black people. Those things cannot be forgotten. But we should not diminish and negate the suffering of others by participating in the oppression Olympics. And when I say oppression Olympics, and many people have used similar terms, but essentially what I'm talking about is a situation where people are involved in a competition over who has suffered the most. They're involved in a competition over who is the biggest victim. And I just think that that is inappropriate. A couple of days after, over 40 people were killed and over 50 people are still injured, and some of them are in the hospital, and more people may eventually die. Being pro-black is not about hatred. Being pro-black is about having a profound love for your people, not a profound hatred towards others. It's about loving your people enough that you are prepared to sacrifice for your people so that your people can be free, so that your people can have equality and justice, so that your people can be empowered. That's what being pro-black is about. It's not about hatred towards others. We should not allow ourselves to lose our humanity, to lose our compassion, to lose our empathy for others. It's not about whether or not you condone the homosexual lifestyle, and I certainly don't condone the homosexual lifestyle. It's about having compassion for your fellow human being. It's about recognizing that all life has value, that people shouldn't be persecuted and killed because of their personal lifestyle choices. Today it's the homosexual community. Tomorrow it could be us. Just like it was yesterday. Just like when that killer entered that church in Charleston, South Carolina. It could be us. A couple of days ago it was a gay club. Tomorrow it could be a church. It could be a mosque. It could be an airport. It can be a mall. It can be a movie theater. It could be anywhere. And if we want people to have compassion for us, then we need to have compassion for others. All people of goodwill must condemn all forms of terrorism and hate crimes. Those things must be universally condemned by all of us.